One of the upsides of not watching many new movies is that it frees up a lot of time to catch up on stuff I never got around to watching. I got a watch list that's ridiculously long, and sometimes it feels like homework when I think about trying to get through it all. Most of the time, I deal with that by rebelling and refusing to even look at it when it comes time to settle in on a Friday or a Saturday night for a flick. Instead, I point the remote at the Tubi app, scan the gutters, and hope to find a good piece of trash to pass the time with. Forget the Oscar bait and navel-gazing indie crapola, most of which I got from my friend's Sailor's List anyway. What I'm looking for is the kind of movie you don't take home to meet the parents. I'm looking for a movie like Future Kick. Now, if you've never heard of Future Kick, that's okay. I watched every martial arts flick I could find on cable or on the shelves of our little small-town video store, and I never saw it either. Which is too bad, really, because it's not a terrible movie. If you consider what the budget probably was for it, I'm betting less than $500,000, and then compare that to just about any big-budget movie made today, Future Kick's actually pretty impressive. Released in 1991, Future Kick was produced by Roger Corman's new Concorde Pictures and written by Catherine Kyron and Damian Klaus. Klaus also directed the movie. It stars Don the Dragon Wilson, Meg Foster, Chris Penn, and Ed Latimer. Writer Catherine Kyron had a prolific career as a writer, director, and producer, and even earned a Daytime Emmy nomination. Future Kick seems to have been director Damian Klaus's only directorial effort, though, but he has a credit as an effects contributor on a favorite B sci-fi movie of mine, Albert Pune's Nemesis. I got a review of that I'll drop a link to in the description. Meg Foster, Don the Dragon, and Chris Penn are no strangers to B-movies. Foster had roles in John Carpenter's cult classic They Live and played Evil Lynn in Canon Films' He-Man adaptation Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren. Chris Penn, younger brother of Sean Penn, had a supporting role in two of my favorite cheesy karate movies, Best to the Best and Fist of the North Star.
Going number one or number two?
Trust dead.
But he also had mainstream roles in movies like Footloose and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Penn plays a cyborg here, and his performance is as over-the-top and ridiculous as you'd hope. Kickboxing champ Don Wilson never managed to escape the gravity of direct-to-video martial arts action movies, but his Ring of Fire movies, especially the first and second ones, are favorites of mine. And side note, Maria Ford has a tiny role in this as a dancer. She and Wilson starred in at least two other movies together, Ring of Fire and Night Hunter. Depending on when you're watching this, I've either got a review of Night Hunter on the way, or it's already up. And for all you karate movie fans, it's worth pointing out a couple other actors who show up in this. Jeff Langton plays Wilson's partner Andrews, who unfortunately doesn't last long in the movie. But Langton played the final boss in College Kickboxers and faced off with Jean-Claude Van Damme in Lionheart as well. He's not given much to do here, but his skills are on full display in the final fight of College Kickboxers. Definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of the genre. I have a review of that too, I'll try to link below. Eric Lee is a Black Belt Hall of Famer who was in tons of martial arts movies, and he shows up for a split second near the start of the movie. If you blink, you'll miss him. He doesn't do any martial arts that I could see, and it makes me wonder if he shot other scenes that were cut from the movie. Anyway, he was in several other Don the Dragon Wilson movies, including Ring of Fire. Okay, so what's Future Kick about? Set on a future dystopian Earth around 2025, all the wealthy elites now live on a colonized moon, and all the poors are stuck on Earth. Life's pretty grim for the latter group, and to escape from their misery, they plug into elaborate VR stories concocted by Meg Foster's husband, Howard, played by Jeff Pomerantz, who I was convinced was Patrick Bergen until I finally looked it up halfway through the movie. Whoops. At the start of the movie, Howard's testing a new VR story, which we're told might still be a bit buggy. Before heading off to Earth on business, he warns Foster's character Nancy not to be messing around with it while he's gone. And do you think Nancy listens to him?
No way.
Anyway, after reaching Earth, Howard does what any married moonling would do. He heads straight for the strip club to get up to some philandering and blackmail before being whacked for reasons we'll discuss later. When word of Howard's death reaches Nancy, she makes a beeline for Earth to get justice for the man she loved. She's naive but determined, but the police are bogged down in cases and totally blow her off. Distraught and with no one else to turn to, she enlists the help of Don the Dragon Wilson's character, Walker, a Cyberon bounty hunter, basically a cyborg.
I'm a cybernetic organism.
Now, the totalitarian corporate government on Earth isn't a huge fan of the Cyberons and is actively engaged in hunting them down and terminating them. Walker agrees to help Nancy for a price, and the two start to investigate. But what they find isn't pretty. It turns out Howard was trying to blackmail a company called Newbody. Newbody's about what you would expect, a company that will replace your old body with a new one. The problem isn't so much what they do, but how they get the spare parts to do it. And without giving too much away, let's just say they don't come by them honestly. Now, this is where the movie takes a dark and sometimes gory turn. And as Nancy and Walker unravel the mystery around Howard's death, Nancy will have to reconcile what she uncovers about her husband's other life with the man she thought she knew and loved. One of the things that stood out to me about Future Kick was how much world building the filmmakers did on this shoestring budget. I mean, the budgets of modern blockbusters routinely surpass $200 million, and they rarely manage to create the kind of immersion Future Kick pulls off for a fraction of the cost. Don't get me wrong, it's cheap. It's super cheap. But it feels real because it is real. The sets and special effects are tangible. They may be made of cardboard and duct tape, but you don't doubt that they're real elements that the actors interacted with that were actually photographed by an actual camera. Using real sets, practical effects, and lighting, Future Kick, a ridiculous martial arts sci-fi B-movie, manages to craft a world that feels real and lived in. Future Kick's a kind of hodgepodge of Blade Runner and Total Recall, with theme music practically ripped off from Corman alum James Cameron's The Terminator. And even though it's not terribly original, the movie actually does try to say something. You've got commentary on big corporations taking advantage of a disadvantaged underclass, totalitarianism, ever-present state surveillance, human life versus corporate profits, and a little bit about the effects of technology on society. Now, for all you martial arts movie enthusiasts, there's some hand-to-hand fights in this. Wilson throws some of his slick-looking kicks here and there, but the choreography really isn't anything to write home about. And if you're watching this just for the karate fights, you'll probably be disappointed. But it's better with the fights than it would have been without them. But when you sit down and watch a movie like Future Kick, you already allowed for the fact that corners will have been cut, that there will be some level of cheesiness, that you might see a boom mic in a shot or two, dialogue will probably be stilted, and you might even recognize some recycled shots from other Corman movies. In fact, for many of us, we're counting on the fact that movies like Future Kick will have all these kinds of faults. Hell, it's half the fun of watching them. And speaking of recycled shots, in my headcanon, Future Kick exists in the same cinematic universe as another cheap Corman dystopian sci-fi flick, Crime Zone. My reasoning? Well, I watched Future Kick about a month before I watched Crime Zone, so it was still pretty fresh in my mind. At first, it was more of a feeling than anything else, but then I started to notice actual things that seemed reused, like uniforms, vehicles, and even some action shots, maybe a few side characters here and there. But it was the strip/nightclub Trocadero 2000 that finally sent me to IMDb digging for the truth. And the truth is, Future Kick borrows from Crime Zone and a few other Corman movies like Forbidden World and Strip to Kill 2. But because Future Kick and Crime Zone are so close in theme and setting, I just think it's kind of cool to think of them as existing in the same universe. It just adds texture and depth to a couple of silly B-movies. Now, before you go, I want to talk about that ending. I say I want to because I can't really talk about it without spoiling it. Let's just say some of you will like it and some of you will hate it. I personally love the ending, and I think it single-handedly transforms the movie from forgettable B-movie to memorable cult oddity. So should you watch Future Kick For me, it was a fun way to pass 90 minutes late on a Saturday night. I really liked the world building, the sets, fight scenes, Meg Foster, definitely the ending, and I like some of the ideas thrown around. But Future Kick throws around a lot of ideas, to the point where it's not really sure what it wants to be. Is it cyberpunk, karate movie, skinamax, exploitation flick, slasher? The truth is it's got elements of all those, and that leaves the movie feeling kind of muddled, like it doesn't really know what it wants to be. I think it could have been better if it had nixed the slasher subplot and just focused on the VR elements. Maybe instead of going to Earth to blackmail Newbody, Howard's trying to go public with problems with the VR technology. Maybe it's making people crazy or violent or something. Howard realizes this, heads to Earth to blow the whistle, and is murdered for his trouble. This keeps the corporate conspiracy and roots the film firmly in the cyberpunk genre. To me, that would have made for a more focused movie, and it would have made the ending hit a little bit harder. But despite these many flaws, I still enjoyed Future Kick. I doubt it's ever going to be considered a cult classic, but if you like a little karate mixed in with your cyberpunk, or if you just like cheap B-movies, there are way worse things you could watch, especially on Tubi. If that sounds like you, I say give it a shot. And while you're at it, why not pair it with Crime Zone and settle in for your own little Corman cinematic universe? Before you go, I want to shout out another project I'm a part of. ScreenAgeWasteland.com is where you'll find news, reviews, and lists of all sorts from a wide range of writers from all over the world. You can also find us on the YouTubes at ScreenAge Wasteland, at ScreenAge Exclusives, and at ScreenAge Reviews. Check us out. We'll see you in the wasteland. All right, that's it for this little Kung Pu ditty. If you're into movies like this, give that subscribe button a swift roundhouse kick. I post reviews like this every Thursday. And best of all, there's no late fees. Thanks for watching, and remember,
Stay out of trouble.